If you're managing in certain leagues or countries, you'll have felt the pain of player fatigue at some point in Football Manager. As you head through the years and get deeper into competitions, the increasingly tight schedule can be a real issue for your players. Nearly half of you said that you struggle with this issue in FM23 in a recent poll we put out on YouTube, so let's hope reduce the problem of player fatigue in FM. I'm going to be sharing some of my top tips in 3 key areas of the game, so if you're looking forward to it, please do add a thumbs up to the video. But for now, let's get straight to number 3, which is a broad group of matchday related subjects. Let's start then with tactics and the matchday in general. This is a pretty big area to cover, but you know there are a number of things you can do during a game to reduce fatigue, especially if you're winning or losing comfortably. For a start, why not try listening to your medical staff? Yes, I know it sounds obvious, but if they only say a player is fit for 45 minutes or is tired, you might want to take notice of that advice. It is there for a reason after all. The biggest problem is tactical styles though. The Gegenpress has become increasingly popular in Football Manager in recent years due to various outlets reporting it to be the most overpowered tactic. This is fine at the top end of the game, as we've watched in real life a number of great sides do it successfully. Further down the leagues and a football ladder in the real world though, most sides don't have the fitness or the game plan to constantly press for 90 minutes. Many teams opt to do it in just spells, at opportune times, or only in deeper positions on the pitch. All of these decisions save energy for less fit players. Makes sense, doesn't it? In Football Manager though, this isn't really reflected. I've lost count of how many saves I've seen with teams playing high intensity Gegenpress in the National League North or South. This is lovely for the first half a game. But what on earth are you going to do for the game about 2 days later with your 15 passable players? Well, there's 3 solutions here. Firstly, if you want to stick to your guns and keep using your intense tactic with less fit players, then why not train a second tactic alongside it? In any game, once the match is clearly won or lost, you can then switch to an equally familiar low intensity tactic such as a possession or a low pressing game to reduce the build-up of further unnecessary fatigue for the remaining minutes of the match. If you're going to rely on your side's energy to be successful, there's no point wasting it at times you don't even need it. The second option here is to change to a more realistic tactic in general. If you're at a part-time side with 7 or 8 over 30s dropping down the football pyramid in your team, they probably wouldn't be playing a high-pressing game in real life. Reflect that in FM. I know the Gegenpress is reported to be overpowered, but if you play to your team's strengths, you'll usually meet your targets. If you don't want to do that, I'm afraid you'll be heading for a squad overhaul. If you choose that third and final option though, I'd probably think about filtering players by the natural fitness attribute. Let's move on to a more simple one at number 2. Yes, it's one of my old favourites that I love to sing from the rooftops. Staffing. An area of Football Manager that is so often neglected but can make the world of difference. We've talked about the importance of having best-in-class staff at your level for so many episodes over the years, and yes, it can make a difference to fatigue too. Firstly, if you're leaving the general and or individual training to your coaching staff, you probably want to make sure they're not buffoons, don't you? High quality fitness coaches and a good spread of workload amongst training assignments will ensure better fitness training and general training at your club. I always say good coaches can make bad players better, but this one is a very simple equation. If your coaches are overworked on the training field, there's a pretty good chance that your players will get outworked on the football pitch. It's also important to have good medical staff too, especially as we all know the increasing importance of both physiotherapy and sports science in the game now. If you ever have a little money spare at your club, despite the temptation, I'd always recommend requesting an extra staff member even before spending on your squad. Well, we've talked about the importance of having good staff, but what can you do on the training ground? My number 1 is focused on training and recovery, because small changes to the training and recovery process between games can change your save and career forever. Let's start with recovery sessions. You might not like managing general training in Football Manager. You might love it. I'm one of those who's not a massive fan. Either way, this is something you'll want to occasionally step in and do. Depending on the level you're managing at, the day after a game will normally be dedicated to either rest or recovery. If you've got a decisive game just 3 days later though, How much physical training do you really want or need in the other 2 days? Changing just one of these sessions to an additional recovery or even a less demanding tactical session can still make the world of difference to your player's recovery. Even at the top level, the slightest edge can make the world of difference, so why not do it in an area where you control the player's action? On the other side of that, we've also got individual player recovery. It's easy to rest players from training completely. A lot of you said it in response to the poll I put out last week. But is that always the best solution, especially when you're going to be hindering a younger player's development? I don't think so. I much prefer to use this screen. The default training intensity, depending on condition, well, it's fine during pre-season or if your team's only playing once a week. But when the high intensity games are coming thick and fast, it is the last thing you want. These are the changes I'd normally make, just edging down most areas by one intensity level. What's more, unlike resting players from training completely, they'll still be working on the training ground and developing their game. I find it makes an enormous difference to player recovery, and I would encourage you, if you take one thing out of this video, to make that change if you've got a packed fixture schedule. So those are my top tips to help reduce fatigue in Football Manager, but what's the advice you swear by when it comes to peaking a player's condition? Let me know in the comments, and if you did enjoy this one, please do add a thumbs up to the video. We're back with our regular FM23 stories tomorrow. You can find those, as well as all of my top threes, up in the eye above. Subscribe and turn that notification bell on to stay up to date with all the new content, and I'll see you back here tomorrow as the head coach returns as normal.